Pricing. One of the biggest bugbears that we have when it comes to running our handmade businesses is working out what on earth we're going to charge for the things that we make. And I hate to break it to you, but this is not straightforward. It's not something that I can just give you a formula and you can use that every single time and it's going to be perfect. There's a lot more to it than that. But today I do want to give you some basic ideals and a basic formula to help get you started on your pricing journey in order to hopefully make it a little bit more simple and straightforward, and so you understand all of the things that need to go into making this pricing decision. G'day there, my name is Jess Van Den. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about how to have a thriving and profitable handmade business and a happy and healthy work from home lifestyle. Now, today we're covering something very, very important. And in fact, I'm going to be talking about pricing and money all throughout this month of October. So if that's something that you need to learn more about or want to learn more about, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. And if you enjoy this one, give me a thumbs up as well. Now, before we dive into the meat of the sandwich, or the tofu, if that is your preferred option, I just want to give you a heads up that I'm giving a very in-depth live online workshop on this topic of pricing later on this month in my membership community, the Thriver Circle. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video, but for now, let's get on with it. So, underpricing is a humongous issue in the handmade community. I don't think I've ever come across somebody who is overpricing at the beginning of their journey or even midway through their journey. Chances are they are underpricing, and often underpricing drastically. Now, this is caused by a lot of different reasons, not valuing ourselves, not valuing our work, looking at what other people are charging and trying to compete with them on price, looking and comparing yourself to hobbyists or people who don't really need to make a living from their work, not taking your work seriously. But I think one of the biggest problems is just not having a basic grasp of the maths and the science and the art behind pricing and what really needs to be considered when you go into making this decision for your work. Now, pricing is not a one and done thing. I just want to get that out of the way now. Just because you come up with a price today for your items does not mean that is the price they will always have. You will develop as an artisan, your skills will develop, therefore your work will get better and better, so your price should go up in accordance with that. You have to take into effect materials costs, you have to take into effect time costs, you have to take into effect the wider economic situation. There are so many things that might impact your pricing over time. So I just want to get that out of the way now and make you realize that this is not something you just do once and then forget forever. So it's really important that you understand all the fundamentals and what you need to look at to go into your pricing so that over time you can adjust this accordingly. So the very basic formula for pricing anything is simply this: the cost price plus a markup equals your final price, okay? So that is the absolute base formula for pricing anything. You need to cover your cost price, there needs to be a markup, and I'll talk about why in a minute, and then that will give you your final price. I see a lot of people who are not even covering their cost price, and that is a big problem. If you are not covering your costs, you are turning yourself into a slave. You are not a business owner, you are making yourself a slave because you are not actually earning enough money to make this business sustainable in the long run. If that is your goal, if your goal is to have a sustainable part-time or full-time business, you cannot do this to yourself because you will simply not last. You will burn out, you will not make enough money, and you will eventually give up because you'll feel like you're not getting anywhere. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this. First of all, you have your cost price. So the cost, all the costs that go into making the item. So the materials costs, and then you have to start thinking as well about the time cost that goes into it. So we've got the cost of the materials, we've got the cost of the time it takes you to actually make the item, all right? Then when you've put those two things aside and you've added them up, we start talking about markup. Now, what is markup? Markup is there to cover a slew of different things. So when you are pricing your work, you need to remember a few things. First of all, are you selling directly to your customers or are you selling via wholesale? Now, you've probably heard this formula where it's something like cost price times 2 equals wholesale, times that by 2 equals retail, right? Now, let me explain a little bit about why that formula exists. So the idea behind that formula is just to basically make sure you are earning some sort of profit, but also so that you're covering all of your overheads. So when you've got cost price, which is materials plus labor, and then you add on the times 2, the idea there is to cover some of your other costs that you always have. Things like your electricity, your internet, buying tools, upgrading the tools you already have, insurance, like all of those things that you need to take into account when it comes to actually making the goods themselves. Things that you might not be thinking about when it comes to putting your pricing together. So many people just stop at the cost of materials and the time, and then maybe put a little bit on top for profit. But again, that is not going to be sustainable in the long run because you're forgetting about all of these other costs in your business. And the only way to recoup those costs is to roll them into your pricing, okay? So this is your initial price. So let's call it your wholesale price. So if you were selling to someone else who was then going to mark your stuff up by 50% and then sell it on, okay, that is the base cost that you need to have. Now, a lot of people stop here and go, well, I'm not actually, I'm selling it myself. I can afford to sell it for this cheaper price. I'm not planning on doing wholesale, so I don't need to worry about matching that doubled wholesale number. So for example, let's just give you some numbers. Say that your initial number here is $30. And if you were to sell that to a retail shop, they would then double that and they would sell it for $60. So that extra doubling, you still need to charge that. And let me tell you why you need to charge that. If you are selling wholesale and selling to a retailer, what does the retailer do to sell your goods? They have to cover their wage, perhaps the wage of their staff. They have to cover their overheads, so their rent, their insurance, their merchandising and materials costs, the bags they put their stuff in, the advertising costs to advertise their business, the actual sales work, like the marketing work and the time they spend doing that is what that money that they're getting covers. Okay, that is why they double whatever they paid you, because they have to cover all of those prices. When you are selling your own goods, you are the retailer. You still have all these costs and you need to cover them. Okay, so this is where people forget that all this other work that goes into your business, the Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, advertising costs, the making your website, like all of those things, they have to be covered in your product price, because that is the only way you're ever going to get a recoup of that time and that money that you have spent. This is why you always have to be charging retail prices for your goods, not stopping at the wholesale level thinking, oh, it doesn't matter because I'm never going to sell via wholesale. Okay, so this is a really, really important thing, and I'm hoping some of you might be having a bit of a brain explosion right now, realizing the importance of charging that extra amount of money. You're paying yourself to be your own salesperson. You're paying yourself to sell the goods, not just make them. Okay, you need to pay yourself for the time that you spend selling, as well as the time you spend making, and all of the admin time and other work that goes into your product. That is really important to remember. The other thing you need to remember, the very last thing, is your shipping. And I'm just going to touch on this briefly. If you ship your stuff yourself and you don't charge shipping separately, remember you have to cover your shipping costs and your packaging costs. So remember, the money you spend on the packaging, you have to cover that cost in your pricing as well. All right, so remember to consider that when you're thinking overheads when it comes to your prices. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I've given you a lot to think about. We've just got those basic formulas. It's just the beginning. There's so much more to think about. I call it like the art and science, or pricing with the head and heart. So this is the sciencey part where you actually look at the maths and go, okay, here's all of the numbers and all of the things I need to consider. The second part pricing with the heart, or the art of pricing. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that you need to take into account when it comes to coming up with that final price, but I'm going to cover that in that workshop that I talked to you about. So if you'd like to join me for that, head on over to thrivercircle.com. I've actually got a link below in the description to the page that will tell you all about the workshop, and you can sign up from there if you'd like to join me for it. It is a live online workshop, but if you can't make the live time, don't worry. All of the workshops are recorded and you can then watch it back and take the workshop later. If you'd like to become a member of the circle, that is how you access these workshops, as well as 40 plus other long in-depth video workshops I have available there right now for makers just like you to help you on your handmade business journey, as well as my year-long course, Your Year to Thrive, which will teach you everything you need to know to start and grow a successful handmade business. So if you'd like to join me, that would be awesome. I'd love to see you there. Membership of the circle is by the month, so you could just sign up for the month and join me for this one workshop if you want. Not a problem at all. But I'm hoping once you're there, you might enjoy it and decide to stick around and learn from me and all the other members of the circle. Thank you so much for watching today. Hope to see you next time for my next video here on the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it. Catch you next time. Bye for now.